So I wrote like 6 pages of regulatory analysis, but I'm afraid of putting you guys to sleep, and I heard I have 5 minutes. So I'm just going to skip through and do very broad things just very quickly. By day, I work for the U.S. government. I work for the U.S. Department of Commerce in International Trade, Regulatory Enforcement, and Compliance. That's basically a really fancy way of saying I do regulations and compliance. But my passion, by night, I run the LA Legal Innovation Meetup, and I blog at the Legal Pioneer. And the topics that we focus on are law startups, the law of startups, and then all the laws and regulations around emerging technologies that are currently developing. I'm also general counsel for a few early stage startups, and I'm just interested in Bitcoin because I thought it would be a really interesting topic to blog on. So hopefully this article will post on the blog soon. But also, if there are companies out there that kind of need some regulatory or compliance help, I'm happy to help. So I'm going to go from U.S. and domestic regulations, and then quickly go over to international regulations. So a few acronyms. AML, BSA, KYC, MSB, OFAC, and SAR. Domestic regulations are like alphabet soup. If you have a Bitcoin startup and you haven't heard of these, I fear for you. But if you know what they are, I think you're on the right track, and you should just keep doing what you're doing. So in terms of existing U.S. regulation, in March 2013, as many of you will know, FinCEN released guidance specifically towards Bitcoin companies and what they can and can't do. Essentially what they did was classify certain actors in the virtual currency market as money services business. So kind of like what you would think of as a Western Union company. The debate around U.S. Regulation of the Bitcoin market really falls into two sides. One is all those people who are totally in opposition to Bitcoin regulation, and then for those people, specifically government regulation, they think it's a direct conflict of the main principles behind this virtual currency. But then, interestingly, the people most in favor of Bitcoin regulation are actually the venture capital investors. And that's because having clear regulatory guidance can actually give companies predictability and not be in this weird, regulatory gray area. So one of the interesting things is, Bitcoin business. A lot of Bitcoin businesses are categorized as money service businesses under current law, but that company's status is still being evaluated by individual courts and state regulators. 2 minutes. Okay, so international. I think countries tend to fall into 3 different categories. First are the ones like Russia, China, Thailand, Vietnam, who outlaw them or severely restrict their use. Another approach is the U.S. approach that basically encourage digital currencies to keep operating as long as they follow the rules. How you follow those rules, everyone's still trying to figure that out. South American countries and the EU countries also tend to fall into this category. And lastly, there's the countries that do nothing like Japan. Until this morning. And as of this morning, Japan sees Bitcoins not as a currency, but as a commodity like gold or silver. They're going to tax them at 8%, but don't worry, because this is how they tax, yen transactions as well. And also, they will be prohibiting banks from dealing with Bitcoins. So a few takeaways. I would say, first, put a good effort forward in terms of regulatory compliance. I think the industry, although a lot of these companies are still nascent, it would be really great for you to organize, maybe not have a trade association, but something that goes and advocates to the government and makes them understand what exactly this technology is. In that way, you will be able to comment and work with them. And then the last piece of advice is don't work against them, work with them. It'll be a better outcome in the long term. Questions?
What's your blog?
My blog is The Legal Pioneer. You can Google that. The address is thelegalpioneer.blogspot.com. Right now, we mostly concentrate on law startups, though. Oh, also, if you are looking for, attorney services or legal services, a lot of you guys are startups. if there's attorneys in this room, please don't kill me for saying this. There's also law startups as well, and I would really encourage you to look into new, interesting, and more affordable ways to procure your legal services. Happy to talk to you guys, anything about regulatory compliance or law. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Amy. We all need help in that area. As entrepreneurs, the last thing we're thinking about is the law. We like to push things forward, and sometimes we feel like we're being held back. So it's really helpful information.